So before we get started, everyone, I would like you to take 5 nice deep breaths, please. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us for Blinded by False Light Leadership, Elimination, and the Rise of New Light Illumination Women Leaders. And this is with New Leadership Light Illuminators, AliNICOLE, which is me, and Gina, Gardiner, and Brenda, Jacobson. And this topic is actually part of our new Illumination Leadership Light Shine Forth Now virtual conversational training conference. But before we get started today with our core focus, and I bring Gina and Brenda forward, I would actually like to share a few of the focus areas for our upcoming virtual conversational training conference. It's very exciting to be actually bringing this forth, especially during these times. So just a few of the areas that are going to be covered is I'm actually going to provide an opening training, and it's called New Leadership Light on Damascus Road. Is inspired by one of my works. And Brenda is going to do a mini talk on awakening your new luminous leadership light and unleashing your magic in the world. And Gina is going to do a mini talk on the enlightened soul mission blueprint of a new illumination leader. And then I'm going to provide sort of a mini keynote on rise, lead, and shine forth as a new Illuminate leader. So again, we are very excited to provide this experience for leaders, primarily women leaders during these times of transition into really a new world experience. So let me just share a little bit about our core focus for today. So I would say that the core objective for this session is really about heightening the awareness of false leadership callings that are taking place during this time, but also to bring awareness to the nature of this time in global evolution for humanities' rebirth and what leadership position women should be taking during this time in order to really participate in the new Illuminate expansion, but also expression of leadership demonstrations. And also before the close of this session, I will be sharing a few publications from the three of us that will help you to level up your leadership light during these times. And also there'll be some information below about our upcoming virtual conversational training conference, and also when that's going to come available. So again, very excited to be bringing this forth. And actually, I'm feeling guided at the moment to read part of an email that I sent to both Gina and Brenda when I invited them to do this call with me. So I'm going to grab that as I feel that it's going to speak very poignantly to the focus that we are going to be providing today. So here's just a little excerpt of the email that I sent to them. And it says, there are leaders, primarily empathic women, who are about to forfeit being a part of the new illumination leadership. They were called to bring forth the new light, but won't be able to. And their fallout is going to be traumatic. Too many of them are being easily distracted and allowing themselves to get caught up in the lower vibrations of the masculine energy of all that's going on in the world. They've succumbed to the lower trajectories and actually are about to lose their influential roles that they already have because they've contaminated themselves and at this point can't participate in the new trajectories. Their impact and income will be affected by this. And so during this time, it's just a little excerpt that I provided for them about the nature of this call. Also, during our time together, I'm actually going to share a few posts that I recently put up on Facebook. And during this time, I'm going to welcome both Gina and Brenda, and we're going to have some dialogue, and I'm excited about this. So I want to first welcome Gina. Gina, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a great privilege. This is such an important topic, and I'm very, very privileged really to be part of it. I think it's just so vital that people recognize what's going on and have an opportunity to put things right.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly, and thank you so much. I can't wait to have a discussion around this particular focus. And welcome, Brenda. Thank you so much for joining in on this today.
I am thrilled to be here with both of you. It's such an important topic, and one that I'm really passionate about, having come out of 20 some years in the C-suite and seeing the way the world has operated. And for 20 years, I've known that we needed this evolution to happen within the business world. We needed to bring that feminine light energy into the business world. And I am so thrilled to be a part of this, where we're actually putting that into action and moving the world forward. So thank you, both of you.
Thank you. And it's so important. I love what you stated, because in this time of great awakening, which is your primary work of helping others to awaken more consciously, it's really vital where we keep our focus and energy during this time, so that we can be the true beacons of new light and hope, within this new emerging experience. And so it's a very, very important topic. I felt there was an urgency to come forth with this. And though I'll touch on a few things and we'll have a discussion, but we'll talk about it more at length during the actual conference. So what I would like to do now is, I mentioned that I was going to share from a few recent Facebook posts that I had. And so I'm actually going to combine two together, and then we can have some dialogue around it, because I really want to hear what you both have to say, because this is a very time-sensitive topic, and leaders, women primarily, they need to be very much aware of where the energy needs to be flowing, and not getting into being parts of the false light, thinking that they are actually being these beacons of light and hope, because that's not actually what's taking place. So I addressed the highly sensitive with the empaths on a particular post, and then I followed up, I believe it was the same day, or it may have been the next day, with a post that related to the new Illuminate Leadership, and basically what the positioning is of how we are showing up in those roles during this time, and those are the characteristics to look for. So here goes the first post. It says, for those who are empathic or highly sensitive, it's important during this time that you keep your energy level up and in the highest vibrations. You play an important role in the next level of evolution for our world. You are here to be part of the new Illuminate leadership that brings new light, new hope, and new solutions. You can't be part of new solutions if you're allowing yourself to be contaminated by the lower vibrational aspects of social media, politics, or things going on in this world. Protect your energy and spirit. Don't allow others to bring those lower frequencies into your space. You can't afford to take on anyone's low vibe baggage during this time, especially if they are self-inducing and self-indulging in the lower aspects of politics, focusing on problems and blame gaming. It's pure contamination, and they don't even realize it. Always keep in mind that even if something that people believe to be true, when it's taken to extreme, becomes error. So even if you believe strongly about something, don't compromise your alignment during these times to shift into lower vibrations just because you want your voice to be heard and make your stand. There will be vibrational consequences in the long run. Also, don't expect others to raise you up vibrationally if you are intentionally participating in lower vibes. It's not fair to others. And then I provided some more context to new illumination. So new illuminators of empathic leaders realize that they have to come from a different place than the norm and be part of solutions from a higher vantage point. So please, I encourage other empaths to keep their directions clear, protect their energy, and make others responsible for their own shifts and leveling ups during this time if they aren't going to step into new solution spaces and new light as they lead. People think they're doing positive things, all while being negative in their approaches about it. Empaths can pick up on that false premise quickly. However, at the same time, several empaths are falling into the trap as they believe to be doing something great, and they will forfeit their higher calling. For those who are ready to level up their empathic leadership light, be sure to use wisdom during this time and don't compromise your alignment, peace, or energy. And then I followed up with this post here. New Illuminate leaders during this time are leveling up to shine their new light in new ways and not going with the traditional norms. Currently, they're the ones who are making major moves in silence, keeping their peace in the midst of chaos and creating new solutions for greater impact and change. You won't necessarily see them posting about what they're doing or even their views on certain things or trying to make a point to persuade others. Their silence will be made loud through the illumination of new leadership light. Several leaders talk about what it takes to be a good leader. However, they don't realize that their demonstration isn't representing or reflecting anything different than even the leadership that they criticize or what they feel needs improvement. Others are watching and making decisions based on what's being reflected and how others are showing up during this time. Sometimes we have to be loud in new ways and shine our light as new representations of lighthouse leadership. This is the time to take a vibrational stance first versus a vocal one. So before I have you both to share your thoughts around this, I just want to add to what I stated is that if we, so let me see how I want to phrase this here. If we do things out of order, we will forfeit, and frustration will cause others to forfeit. This is what happened to Moses in the Bible when he struck the rock for water to flow out instead of speaking to it as God had commanded. And it was because of this one act of misalignment that he, along with the tribe he was leading, forfeited, the promised land. So during this time, many leaders, women primarily, they are allowing this to happen to them. When it's really time to be the new light that I was speaking about and lead in new ways of higher intentionality. It's the time to be leading from the divine flow state of their feminine calling and really vibrationally aligning with the required solutions and shifts that are really needed during this time. And I'm going to say this as bluntly as possible. If you are fighting against something and you're frustrated in your functionality, the way you're operating, trust me, you don't understand how things work for this new era. And you are being darkened by your ego's agenda and also being influenced by a collective bias. And that collective bias is trying to hang on to old formats. And even though you believe that you are acting to bring about change, I'm going to say this, that's not what's going on. And it's unfortunate that too many have already struck the rock and now they're actually being repositioned into lower dimensional purposes, or really they could possibly fade altogether. But what's going to happen is that the rise of new illuminate light leaders, that's what's coming forth to, to bring about this change. And so before I actually share about the primary groups of women who actually have already forfeited in a sense, and will start to face elimination, I actually want to hear the thoughts of Gina and Brenda. So who should I start with first? Who wants to go first at this?
You go ahead, Gina.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because one of the things that I've observed over the last few months, and it's become even more so over the last few weeks, is people who talk about that they have a huge purpose and it is about supporting and helping humanity, have got caught up in the fear and in the sense of lack and the sense of I've got to be right in order, and by being right, you've got to be wrong. And I've noticed it, I belong to a couple of online networks, and it's been very interesting how the whole vibration of the conversation gets completely sullied by one or two people starting to have polarized views about politics or about vaccinations or whatever, and how what has been a really high vibrational group really pushing the boundaries, how quickly that falls into something which is completely different.
Right.
And I've thought quite a lot about it because I've noticed it in a few people that we know well, and as I've read posts and things like that, there is that sense of jarring.
Right.
This does not feel in alignment with me. I do not want part of that, because my belief is that we are being tested at the moment, and that it is absolutely critical that we stay operating from our heart, that we come from a place of faith, that actually what's going on is not our job, that our job is something beyond and above, and we have to be, so for example, the floods that have been going on. If you want to show people the way to safety, you've got to be up high. You can't be in the middle of the flood.
That's right.
You might be able to do the immediate rescue, but you're not going to be able to help them find a safe and secure place unless you can lead, and that has to come from above. You have to take them to a higher place. And there is so much dissent and so much fear and distress in the world that I believe that what's going to make the difference is those people who can hold themselves accountable. Intentional is the word you use, in terms of the vibrational state that not only do you live in, but that you broadcast to other people, so that we can then encourage people to come out of the muddy water and the currents which have been so toxic, to find a new way.
Absolutely. Yes, I love what you stated, and it's so great, because actually a little bit later I'm going to talk about the new divine order shifts that are occurring, and actually the position that we have to be taking is really shifting even from savior and enabler and blamer to self-responsibility, self-accountability, and source reliability. So you're setting us up for, for that part of the conversation, that will take place later. But everything you said is so on point, because you do have to be in that higher ground. I just love metaphorically that analogy that you use. It was a perfect example. And it doesn't mean that new light leaders in this new illumination, it doesn't mean that they are airy-fairy and have their, head buried in the sand, and they're just, it's all great. No, they're very much aware. We are very much aware of what is going on, but we are doing our jobs to maintain the higher frequency and focus in on the solutions and be creating those solutions, and not feeling the need to broadcast what the problems are. And because that's very obvious, that's, or feeling the need to draw attention, to that. And I'm going to speak to that too a little bit later, of why some are actually doing that during this time. And though it may seem rewarding to them, but there's going to be some consequences, that will definitely play out. But let's hear from Brenda, and then
before we do, could I just come back to that?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
But just to say that, there's now so much research that shows that if you are into problem, if you're focusing on the problem, that you are operating out of left brain. Left brain has the ability to look at cause and consequence, but it doesn't see solutions. It tends to catastrophize, and it doesn't look at relationships. It's very, very linear, and it's not the place you need to be to find solutions. You need to be right-brained. You need to breathe and to be able to access your creativity and your solution finding. And that's where you find options. That's where you develop meaningful and positive relationships. And I think what we're seeing is that the fear, and it tends, I believe, to be when people are in fear, that everything is very, very left-brained, and people are reproducing the very thinking that got them into the mess. And so now it's got to be, we've got to choose something different. We've got to take responsibility for doing things in a different way, and a way where we can find a solution that isn't about me beating you. The solution is about being able to take others with you and to help them to develop the potential to do the same.
Absolutely. Well stated. Well stated. That could not have been said better. And we will definitely continue the discussion around this. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring Brenda in so we can hear from her, and then we can continue the conversation with a few other things that I want to share and address. So Brenda, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I don't know what more I can add. You guys were brilliant on everything that you brought up. I love your last commentary, Gina, about the left brain. One of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein is that you can't solve a problem from the same vibration that created it in the first place.
Absolutely.
And something like that, I'm paraphrasing, but that's so relevant here, is that if you're trying to resolve issues in that same lower vibration, you're never going to get there. You're never going to achieve, you're never going to cross the chasm into this new vibratory frequency. And it's where people need to be. Our heart, our right brain is what's connected to our heart, which is connected to our intuition and to source. And that's why when it's so creative, because it accesses that higher level of wisdom and brings that in to resolve whatever the challenges are that we're currently facing. So I think that it's critical that people start to balance their right and left brain. It's not a good or bad thing. Like, they're not good or bad. They both have a very powerful function for us. It's when we can integrate them and work interhemispherically that the power just exceeds anything that we could imagine at this level. So I agree with both of you. I've seen so many people who think that they're, and they don't even use the word evolve, which is probably accurate. They think they're transforming, but they're transforming. They're really focused on transformation and transforming their way of leadership. And they are making a difference. They are moving from that masculine kill or be killed model into that feminine, thrive together model, where they're more focused on the people, but they're still holding at that lower frequency and just changing slightly, but they haven't actually moved into that completely different organism.
metamorphosized. They have
No,
not
exactly.
They have not
haven't
metamorphosized. And
made
we'll
that
talk
leap.
about that too.
Right.
Mhm.
So they
Just
haven't made
caterpillars.
that leap across the
Mhm.
chasm to be something very different than they were in the old vibration.
Right.
That's
Right.
the work that needs to be done. And
Mhm.
as you pointed out, not everybody is going to be in the position to actually do that. You need a lot of courage. You need a very open mind to move into that new way of being. It's not hard. It's so, the energy is so light, the vibration is so high that it happens very easily. It's that, our fears, one of the quotes that came out of one of the meditations that I did is, what our fears make solid turns to mist when we embrace it.
Mhm.
And that is exactly what happens. Is it looks so scary to have to leave behind what you've learned over your entire life and step into something brand new. But there's a lot of fear, as Gina pointed out. People are just bogged down in fear of moving into this new vibration. But if they just have, find the courage to make that step into the mist, it is just brilliant on the other side. And it happens so easily. They don't have to recreate the program. The program is already there waiting for them. It is, the way of being is ever present in that vibration. All they have to do is find the courage to make the step into the mist.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
all I would
definitely.
add to the brilliance
Oh, no.
that you guys brought to
Oh,
this.
thank you. And that was brilliant what you stated. And the thing about it is, when people aren't not only courageous enough, but also willing, in a sense, because, and we'll talk about this a little bit later too, where there's a reason why they're holding on to the old constructs, even though they believe that they're making great change. And the reason why this comes up for women, primarily during this time, is because the next wave of evolution and the shifting, as I mentioned before, is dependent upon women stepping into these roles of the higher leadership. And men are actually, some are actually ready to experience that type of shift. Now, we still have, obviously, the ones who are holding on to the old paradigms, but there are some empathic men, for sure, who are definitely ready for the new integration, but they have not come to the light because they're kind of afraid to share their voices, around that. But they are paying attention to women in leadership during this time. And they're making decisions on who they're not only going to support, but whose movement, they want to be a part of and help to, be one of the leading kings to help bring in the right align and divine balance between the masculine and the feminine, working together really as one cohesive unit, but understanding that it is the time for this newer, lighter, higher approach that is coming by way of the women birthing this new world experience. So something I'm going to go ahead and address right now, and this just came from the divine wisdom and guidance. So I'm going to share something that may be hard on certain people's flesh. This is not coming from me. This is the direct wisdom of who's going to be a part of that annihilation and what actually is going to be taking place. So I know you all probably remember that the Dalai Lama had stated that the world would be saved by the Western woman.
Yeah.
And then basically it was just a call to action for women throughout the West to rise up and be the truth of who they are. And though there's a lot of truth to what was stated, and can say prophetically, in a sense, that is or will be playing out. But there is certain groups, and the wisdom or the energy was very specific of actually ones that won't be in the leading forces, so to speak, in this Western women's solutions movement, if you will. And so I'm going to share this. Again, this is not my opinion. This is what the wisdom provided, and it actually makes a lot of sense to me based on what's been being witnessed and viewed over time, but also more recently. And so there's a certain group, it's not all, but what came through was that there is going to be a particular group of Caucasian American women who actually will not be in the leading forces of what's emerging. That is going to be other foreign country women alliances and strong Western world minority women who will mobilize this global evolution and be the midwives of birthing this new world. Now, again, this does not include all Caucasian women, nor does this exclude other nationalities either. All who are participating out of alignment during these times will be eliminated. But there is a primary group who is leading in this resistance, and it is primarily has been identified in the Caucasian American woman. And these are women who are, some of them already involved in politics, very high level leadership positions, some just local positions and unknown. But what was coming through is primarily any woman who basically has a social media platform who is trying to make her leadership voice known to influence others from a lower vibrational stance. And so this is where, as I mentioned about the false callings, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this because this is very important so that people can become aware of what you could be potentially participating in and why you need to actually be shifting into the newer dynamics. There's a statement or an old phrase that says that good intentions pave the pathway to hell. And I know you all are familiar with that. Yeah, probably have heard that, I would imagine. Yeah. Yes. And so though these women believe that their intention is pure and it's the right thing to do, again, when we operate out of alignment, then it's going to be costly. Because going back even before I share why they're going to be forfeiting, going back to what I mentioned earlier about Moses. Moses was used to striking and parting the sea with his staff and doing all. He was used to that. He was accustomed to that. But when a new command came and a new direction came, no, this is how you do it this time. He was all caught up in his frustration with the people and with the circumstances that even though the new command was given, because he was in frustration, he acted out of what he normally would, and he started striking, and it was not time to do that. And again, therefore, he forfeited along with the others of going into the promised land, and it had to be a new generation to rise up and move forward, to go forward. So these women are forfeiting, and I'm going to share again the wisdom that came through. So these women are forfeiting because they're triggered with autopilot reactions of confusing their empathy, intuition, nurturing qualities, and heart-centeredness for a cause with a false calling to help heal, be heard, and take a stand against what they feel is unjust instead of understanding how the new earth grid operates. They don't understand the law of vibrations and the birthing pains that are manifesting through divine disruptions of chaos and reordering events that are designed to give way to the birthing of a new unknown world that's for the highest and best good of all, which also means, I'm going to say this, this also means that deep down, they want to hang on to the old because they don't know who they are in a new identity and who they will be. They don't know what a new identity for them would look like because they're used to being in these modes. So there's partially, yes, I'm passionate about this. I'm upset about the things going on, and there needs to be change happening. Absolutely. And you can leverage that frustration as fuel in a sense to bring about some change. But the difference is that you got to be careful with the energy that you come from. And you got to ask yourself, why is this? Because part of that is yes, and part of it is that you aren't really ready to let go of doing something in a new way, because that's going to require you to be different. Another thing that came up was operating from unhealed wounds within themselves instead of higher divine timing wisdom, meaning they are not connected to higher wisdom for the metamorphosis of the plan for this new earth trajectory and humanities evolving into this new entity of a divine expression. So as I mentioned, as Brenda was talking about, they want to hang on to the transformations and the different growth spurts, but they don't really want to evolutionize themselves. And I mentioned, yeah, they haven't metamorphosized. And if you haven't metamorphosized, you can't evolutionize. And is a reason, again, why they continue. Some of it is self-induced ignorance for sure, but underneath, some of it is not also wanting to let go of the old format and kind of tricking themselves in the trap to think, see, I'm doing this great cause and I'm doing all these different things and I'm getting people to agree and see me and hear me and all of this, but it really is acting out of unhealed wounds. And so there's no wholeness that has really been established. And so actually I'm going to share on that note another post, which was actually a promo post. It's an excerpt that I'm going to share from a recent training that I did with my great friend and colleague, Joseph L. Jones Jr. We focused on developing the whole of you as a professional and unleashing your greater potential. So a few things that we talked about was how so many professionals develop skills, but they don't actually develop their wholeness factor. And we also discussed how the traditional self-help and self-improvement practices have not served one's greater expansion. And actually, that's really playing out because a lot of the leaders, influencers that we see out here are ones who are teaching self-empowerment, teaching self-help, teaching leadership, improvement, development, all these different things. And they have, studied themselves, put themselves through processes, but yet we still see that there's, no true metamorphosis that has taken place. They've transformed, as I say, more so like a tadpole to a frog. It just became bigger, but it actually has not undergone the process in which a caterpillar breaks down, unforms, and then metamorphosizes into a completely different entity of an expression. So I'm going to read a little bit from the post. It says, I also shared briefly about my experiences over the years with seeing all that goes on behind the scenes with professionals, leaders, and more who are showing up in front of others on social media one way. However, behind the scenes, they are complete basket cases, even verbally abusive at times and often struggling in many ways. They are trying to empower others to be whole, yet they are human Swiss cheese factories in motion, full of holes, and they lack wholeness. We can't afford for this to continue to be more of the norm in our marketplace. It is to the biggest detriment of those whom they serve, and also to themselves, they do a huge disservice as well. I went on to talk about, with having a background in counseling, psychology, certified in mental wellness, awareness, and several other related areas, I'm very much aware of the importance of wholeness and why it's important to develop the whole of a professional and not just skills alone. We create better work environments and marketplaces when the whole of a professional is developed. And so going back to what I mentioned is, yes, we have these leaders out here who have done self-empowerment. They're out here empowering others. They have mastered their skills and been honing their crafts, but really they have not mastered their wholeness factor. And that's why they can share from these places of unhealed wounds, thinking that no, there's injustice in the world and this is what's going on and all these different things. And I'm sharing from this place because change needs to happen. Well, but change can't happen in the ways that traditionally we think has helped. That hasn't helped. That's why people are the way that they are now, is that there has not been the inner evolution to bring about wholeness, okay, that you can function from the place of wholeness. And so that's why there's the need. I got to be right about this. I need to make this person wrong. And if anybody's participating this way, they're X, Y, and Z, and I need to share my voice. What is this really about? Is it really about sharing your voice to evolve humanity and to expand what's going on? Or is this really a cry of unhealed things that need to come forth? This is a part of the birthing of a new. And sometimes people will have their own disruptions. You know, if you feel you've never been heard before, or you feel that, hey, I need to stay popular right now, so I need to be talking about this. There's a lot of reasons why certain activity is going on. But I can rest assure you that it is not from the place of the higher divine calling. It is from the position of false calling and being blinded by a false premise to, you know, to be able to share. Again, not saying that some things aren't legitimate. It's just the way that it's being done, and the timing is off for how it's being done. So I'm going to share this really quickly. The current their current reward that will eventually follow up with regret. So this was the other part of the wisdom that came. As they're doing all of what they're doing. It says they will rise for a moment in popularity because that's the conditioning of the masses, you know, to perceive. You know, people jump onto what they think is trending, the hottest thing now, and people like drama and they get stirred up in it. And even though these ones who are leading from that place, except they will rise up temporarily for sure. However, will be reduced in relevance and even revenue permanently until their blinded eyes are open in the awakening of the great illuminations and new foundations are laid for their life and leadership mission, this is going to be something I will teach on during the new leadership Light on Damascus Road. So I am going to say this, that there is some new light and new hope, even for these leaders that are actually forfeiting, you know, during this time. Or let me just say this, I need to rephrase this so that I'm very clear, because there's going to be fallout regardless, so that they're not escaping that. But as it's happening during and even after they've experienced kind of the fallout, there's going to be a short window for them to have some support. But this support is only going to be to set them up for a very self-guided journey. So it will be kind of a lonely journey in a sense for them getting back to gaining new ground. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we are actually within the conference. But yeah, like I said, this is a very interesting dynamic. Some people know there won't be, you know, any of the recovery, so to speak, because they're not willing to do what Brenda mentioned about be courageous, but also be willing to shift into the new, because they want to hold on to the old identity and won't allow themselves to evolve into these beautiful expanded butterflies of luminous light. So it's, like I said, it's going to be interesting, but this is going to bring about great change on levels like never before. So before I actually quickly share the new divine order shifts and the resources, I would really love to hear just the thoughts from both Gina and Brenda. So which one of you want to jump in?
You want to go first, Brenda?
Sorry, I have myself on mute because I'm coughing a bit. Yes, I just concur with everything that you have brought forward, AliNICOLE. And I don't think we've ever seen a time, I know that we've never seen a time where it was just so mandatory that somebody evolve if they want to keep going on the trajectory that the world is going on. This evolution is not a choice for any of us. The planet is evolving, and we need to do our bit to stay up and stay current, stay in that flow of positive light energy, and take the journey along with the planet. And if not, then I don't know what's going to be left behind. There'll obviously be something, but as you pointed out, it won't be commanding the gifts that they have had available to them at this point, that it will be, those will have to die off in order to remain in that lower vibration energy, because those gifts that we all came in with were really was gearing us for this evolutionary shift.
Absolutely.
And to if we're choosing to remain behind, we don't need those gifts. They don't fit in this lower vibrational world. So moving into that higher evolved vibration is where those gifts will now really come to life. And I would say that what people have experienced of those gifts is almost in many cases just a hint that there's something bigger within them. They will see that flourish when they step through the mist and into this new vibration, and they will see it'll become so clear the purpose behind those gifts, how it applies, where they fit in. This is also a world of collaboration. No man stands alone, no woman stands alone. That's right. That the gifts that we hold are really a key to a bigger box, bigger container that has all of these vibrant, evolved, light being souls in it. And we just hold one piece of that puzzle that pulls together this absolutely incredible picture of the new world. So it is just so critical for people to have the courage to make that journey across, take the expedition with us, move into that new vibrant energy, and leave the old stuff behind. It never really served any of us as empaths that came in. It didn't serve us. It was a holding. We were in a holding pattern in that old world. And knowing deep down at the soul level, we knew that there was something more for us there, but not being able to understand it because it hadn't really revealed itself to us.
Right.
It's now being revealed. It's this great revelation that is opening up this wonderful vista. And for those who are ready to awaken those internal gifts that they have felt the presence of and bring them into the full light, this will be a brilliant, absolutely exhilarating journey.
Absolutely. It will be the magical journey, the one that you are awakening more people to the luminous. And now you trigger something, Queen Gina, before I actually bring you forward to say something. I had to go to a post now because she triggered something. I think it's very relevant here. And it's really about the magic. And again, that's what you're going to be talking about during the conference, is really awakening leaders to this new luminous, magic in their leadership, because that's going to be really required for this next phase into this very brilliant, as you state, new world experience. And so one of the posts led with, I actually shared, it was a post I shared, and then I just added my commentary to it. But the actual post said, invest more time with the people who bring out the magic in you, and not the madness. And so then I put, yes, right. I put exactly. If you're currently focused on and or flowing your energy in lower vibrational activity, and I put in parentheses, including the political stuff, you are not calibrated to be in my vibrational, mental, or physical space, meaning you won't be getting any of my time. You can't be part of magical shifts and solutions for great change if you're engulfed in the madness. You can't solve anything that's going to be meaningful that you push against from a lower vibrational stance. The vibrational welcome mat is not down for those who are creating, the vibrational welcome mat is down for those who are creating the magic. And by doing so, they are dispelling the madness with right aligned, inspired actions from a high vibrational state. So basically, I have these, when I do posts and it could trigger something, I put that, it's my welcome mat is not down. My social media welcome mat is not down for all comments of all kinds. So I'm very, I have a disclaimer, but I put that there that, you know, my vibrational welcome mat is down for those who are creating the magic. And by doing so, as I mentioned, they'll dispel any of the other stuff that's going on, because we have to be in that new place. You're either flowing towards the new or you aren't. There is no in between at this point. You're going to have to make your vibrational stance and you know, and move in that and keep, you know, the energy flowing. So I felt guided to go and find that post really quick and share that. Because,
and I like that, because it really comes down, and it might sound contrite, but it comes down to simply a choice. Are you going to choose the magic? Are you going to choose the madness? And you know what resonates with you. And some people, the madness resonates with them. And, and that's not. And if
it's
not right or wrong.
No, it's not.
It's a choice that they have. And what we're really here to do is help those that have been that have come in prepared for this new evolution, to actually have the courage to make the journey with us.
Yeah, that is so true. And I do want to say something. Maybe I'm going to play the devil's advocate really quick. But I know the school of thought of there is, you know, kind of no right or wrong. There is. I think that yes and no to both. That we have choice, which is our free will. Are there some better choices than others? Absolutely. Are there some choices that will not serve at the end of the day, that are not in right alignment? Yes. And will those have consequences? They will. So are they there that people can learn and evolve from it? Absolutely. But could I consider that to be, that's not the choice of your best alignment, to be eliminated from something that you were meant to be a part of. And it would be like a tree, an acorn that was designed to be an oak tree. And it says, no, I'm going to choose the path of a Fraser fir, but that's not according to your encoding. So that would be going the wrong way against the nature of who you are here to be. So though, yes, it may not seem like there's a right or wrong, but I do believe that sometimes we do have to choose the narrow way and eliminate certain options from our understanding. And even if we have to make it temporarily seem wrong in a sense, so that we don't even, that's not even an option for me. This is the path of highest evolution. This is the path that I'm choosing. Yes, I will be growing and evolving and expanding along the way. And any other path that is not aligned for that path is not the right path. But we can say there are no wrong paths in a sense, but there will be some consequences. And our lives will feel off and misaligned, and if we forfeit that greater purpose. So, and the only reason why I brought that up is so that it doesn't give other people an easy way out too, to say, well, see, I have a free will and I have choices, and at the end of the day, everything will always work out. Your choice isn't better than the choice I'm making. I'm not right. You're not righter than me, and I'm not wrong for what I'm doing. Well, I think it just depends. It just vibrationally depends. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I get
it all comes
you're
down to the
coming from.
consequence.
It does. Yeah.
There's always, like I say, no, to me, no decision's right or wrong. There's consequences that you may like or dislike from the decisions that the choices that you make.
Exactly. Very well stated. Oh, as always, so beautifully.
Thank you.
Put. Thank you. Okay, Gina, then I'll come back and share our resources. Then Brenda, I will have you to close us out.
You know, as I listen to this, what strikes me is if you take it back to almost the beginning, and you think about people have been put on this earth at this time to have to make a positive difference to humanity and to the planet. And they came in with that purpose, and many of the people that we're talking about will have a really well-defined sense of purpose, and actually they want to make a positive difference. But I think, you know, we've used the journey analogy quite a lot, and I think if we continue to use that journey analogy, that, you know, you might have a destination in mind, and that you want to get there and you want to make a positive and constructive difference. But which route you take will determine whether you're going to get there at all, or whether you're going to get there late, or whether you're going to get there in any shape to be of any use.
Right.
And it seems to me that as we've been talking about this, that if, you know, those of you that are listening to this, what I'm really urging you to is take some time to self-reflect.
Yes.
And don't just dismiss this. You know, I've got a high sense of purpose, and, you know, I've got the higher moral ground.
Right.
Really start to sit with this and think about, where does your vibration sit for the most part of the time? Are you spending your time being in a place where you are angry, that you are frustrated, that you have a sense of lack, that you feel that what you're entitled to isn't happening, where there's division, where I'm right, you're wrong, I don't like you because you're not the right shape or not the right color or not the right creed, that, you know, you've got to do things my way, or that things are wrong. And there could be people who say, well, that's what you're saying. If you don't do it my way, then you're wrong. But that's actually, I don't think, the message that we're giving here.
No, absolutely not. Right.
If you really take the time to recognize to yourself, I mean, AliNICOLE, sorry, Ethan, you talk about being a journalist in your own life, and that's never been more important. Look at the patterns of your language, of your behavior, the things that you avoid because they feel a bit uncomfortable or unfamiliar, the old patterns of action that you take, and ask yourself, does this put me in a place of higher vibration? Am I coming from a place of love, gratitude, kindness, compassion, collaboration, or something else? And what strikes me is, whilst all of this maelstrom is going on around us, the capacity to hold the ground, hold that vibrational ground, which says, I have faith that I am in the right place, that I am here to do my role, whatever that turns out to be. And it might not be the one that I thought it was, but ultimately, if I have that faith and I come from a place of love, I will be well placed to help others do the same.
Right. Right.
And that requires, it's courage in the small moment by moment rather than the grand gesture.
Mm.
And it's being mindful. You know, you can't be an authentic, genuine, enlightened leader of family, friends, community, country, unless you lead yourself first.
Right.
And that's the most important choice that you have to make, moment by moment. And we will all dip below the line at times.
Absolutely.
But how quickly do you get back up? Do you recognize that you're on the way down? And do you pick yourself up and get yourself back? And sometimes that's hard.
Yes, right, right.
But as you have both so eloquently said, ladies, that when you do, you open yourself to the magic. And I'm very mindful that you, Brenda, talked about people who have only just touched the surface. I believe it's a bit like an iceberg. And what we are seeing at the moment is the tip of the iceberg of people's potential. But ultimately, you are entirely responsible for yourself. And so many people, I think, are deflecting the looking at themselves, because that's painful, by taking on all of these causes and pointing the finger at somebody else.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Wow. That was perfectly stated. And, you know, I want to say this, so I can quickly share about the new divine order in times of shifts. Something I want to go back to really quick that you stated, Gina, and it's something I've actually been thinking even through, as we've been talking through this session, is that, yeah, there will be others who will listen and say, well, you're taking the position that where you are or what you're speaking is the right way or the gospel or so. But here's the deal. Again, we have to be sensitive to timing. And it's not so much about making people's approaches wrong. It is the time. If you're not aware of the timing that we're in and what can be going on and what should not be going on during a certain time, then it doesn't matter how right you are if the positioning is out of alignment. So you can have the right cause, and then there was a time where, yes, you could share your voice a certain way and even share it from the place of frustration or the place of, and some people do it and it's just one or two, but when it becomes kind of a chronic thing, that's perpetuating and going on and it's causing division and different things, you don't understand the timing. It's almost like a football player on a basketball court. You know, he's in the game, but he's in the wrong arena. And so if you don't understand the timings, and one thing that most know about me, they've been around me for quite some time. I'm very grounded in the present, but I'm a very futuristic energy. So I'm already normally 10 to 20 years ahead in preparation on different things that most catch up to or have been oblivious to. And so there are individuals who are uniquely gifted, who do have some awareness around the timing. No different than someone who's gardening, or I'll bring it even basic, who's planting. There are certain times of the year where you plant certain flowers for the best results. And then there are certain times that it's not the best time. And so you have to know the timings that we're in. If it's not time to be striking and you're not aware of that, then you're going to forfeit. You may have the right method that you've been using and your cause and claim may be legit. But if you're out of the timing on which it needs to be being done, it doesn't matter what your cause is. You're out of position. And again, there'll be consequences to that. And you don't want to miss that, being blindsided to yourself, following a cause or calling that is not really ultimately what's supposed to be going on during this time. So we do have to be in touch and in tune and in sync to know what's required during this time and what isn't. So let me quickly share this and then we'll get ready to wrap up. I'll share our resources too. So the new divine order in time shifts. And one of the reasons why people are, whether they admit this or not, it's something that's deep within, why they're doing what they're doing is because they're trying to hold on to these old concepts. They want to be the saviors. They want to be all these different things to make names for themselves to do. There's a whole lot of different agendas that come into play. Again, things that need to be healed. But the wisdom that came through is that you are not the savior. You are the light of the world, that others discover their true power of self-deliverance, self-liberation, an inner light that leads them to source solutions for their divine path. I'm going to repeat that. You are not the savior. You are the light of the world, that others discover their true power of self-deliverance, self-liberation, an inner light that leads them to source solutions for their divine path. This is the time of shifting from savior and enabler and blamer to self-responsibility, self-accountability, and source reliability. So because what's happened is we've been conditioned to be these problem solvers, which I teach about being a solution catalyst. And so there's been this problem solving premise instead of the solution catalyst. So most are operating in this savior mode, but what happens is they end up becoming enablers, and that's why people need people to follow them. They need to, have people feed into them a certain way. But we are in a time right now where it's really kind of a tough love from source, in the sense that's kind of kicking in. What's happening is that it's up-leveling humanity all around the globe to really stop putting their faith in others and to start connecting to the divine source alignment for their total well-being. So again, we've been talking about leaders, but this applies to whether leaders are in business, ministry, any type of higher service, professionals, that it's really time to let go of trying to make yourself be something that you're not called to be. And you got to start moving people through accelerated formats. And that's something that we do, so that you don't have people who you're enabling them and they are becoming codependent on your voice. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the conference, is that there are a lot of shifts that have to be made. But, and yeah, like I said, I won't get too much into that, but we have some resources, because we do believe in, during this time, bringing people through the accelerated formats. And that's why we publish primarily in intentional interactive journal formats, to provide just enough of a trigger mechanics for others, so that it stimulates inside of them what they need to have in order to become self-empowered, really through their own information, and start creating their solutions. And we also conduct VIP days and intensives and things that are no longer than 90 days. Of course, we support people in longer formats, but the goal is that you want to have these accelerated experiences, so that people become really empowered, and make sure that they're not becoming in a codependent, type format. So I mentioned that the new Illumination Leadership Light Shine Forth, the virtual conversational training conference. We're going to have information for that below, and also resources that can help you to start leveling up. So I'm going to share two from each of us, and I'll start with mine. I have a publication that's called New Light and New Hope. It's a motivational Q&A journal for New Era Illuminate Leadership. And then also there's Lighting the Shore, Leading the New Way. It's an entrepreneurial leadership creation journal for designing an Illuminate impact agenda. And Gina also co-authored that with me. And then there's two publications from Gina, one which I had the privilege to provide a forward for. And it's called It's Time to Become a Beacon of Light and Hope: How to Become an Illuminating Enlightened Leader and Light the Way in Challenging Times. And so you can't be lighting the way in challenging times if you are coming from a vibration of frustration and in the lower ground. You're not being the light. You're not being a beacon of hope if you're coming from that way. And you certainly aren't illuminating enlightenment. Another one that from Gina is Enlightened Emerging Leadership, an intentional journal and planner to support your development as an enlightened leader. And you need that enlightenment during these times, because you can't be illuminate if you aren't enlightened. And we can see that there's a lack of enlightened leadership that's taking place because there's no real awareness and connection to the timing and how things are progressing and shifting and what this new world is about. So that is going to help you tremendously. And so then from Brenda, we have prepare for your accelerated awakening, shifting from resisting to responsibility for your higher purpose in the new world. And so no time to delay. It is time to accelerate for sure. And then we have another one by Brenda, and it's the 30-day wake-up call, a mini course and workbook for your awakening journey. These publications are so important, and hers are very vital, because if you aren't awakened, you can't be enlightened. And again, you can't be illuminate without those working together really like a hand in glove. So it is time to accelerate. It's time to wake up. Wake up. Do not forfeit your divine purpose and calling by getting caught up in the things that you are not a part of. There are other people, maybe that's their job to be doing that and staying in that lower frequency. And yes, they are helping, inspiring, empowering some people to some extent. But those who are called to be part of the new Illuminate Light Leadership, you've got to go to high ground and be in high ground at this point and raise people up. There's time to be the butterflies and the eagles and the phoenixes. These resources will help you to evolve and expand and be able to rise, in that way. Some other forthcoming works that will probably be out during the actual conference is the new Illuminate Leadership Light Factor is lighting the shore and leading the new way as an evolutionary lighthouse leaderpreneurial journal. And then there's a new leadership light on Damascus Road, and it's an Illuminate Awakening Journey Journal for repositioning your leadership light mission and agenda. And I'm going to have contributions from these two queens within those publications. So we've shared quite a bit here. And I know this was kind of a heavy topic, but it was one I felt the urgency to come forth with and to shed light. Is, don't allow yourself to be blindsided, and it's time to level up so you don't forfeit this greater expansion, because there will never be another time in history of the opportunities that are being presented now. So don't get fooled about it. It's never too late. And I can always know we're in a new grid. That's old paradigm thinking. This is the time you've got to make your vibrational stance so that you can line up with the truth of your greater expansion. So I just want to thank Gina and Brenda for this immense experience here. It's been fabulous. And I will turn it over to Brenda. And Gina, if you had any final thoughts, you can definitely share it. And then Brenda, have you close us out.
My only thoughts are to say to people who are listening to this, time's of the essence. You have so much to offer. Please, please do listen and take the necessary action to make things to a place where you can fulfill your potential.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was stellar, and the perfect way to give people that call to action. I also want to mention that the links to the publications are also going to be below. So there'll be information about those, and also information that you can learn more about the three of us as well. So thank you, Gina, again for sharing that and for being here. And Brenda, thank you. And I turn it over to you for final thoughts and conclusion.
Thank you. It has been a joy just being here in this space with both you, Gina, and AliNICOLE. There is a sense of urgency in this. I think that was well communicated throughout this sort of mini training here. The time is now. It really is. It's now. It's time to move. there is such a community waiting to embrace you on the other side, that this is not a solo journey that anybody is taking by any stretch of the imagination. This is a community of people that are taking this evolutionary step, and none of us quite know exactly what to expect on the other side. It is, it's an adventure for all of us, but I think we know that the feeling that we're stepping into that light, accelerated energy, and just really invite everyone to join us to step into your new evolved purpose. People may know what their purpose was in this third dimension, but there's an evolution to that as well. So asking yourself, what is the evolution of this old purpose, and stepping into that, bringing that into the new energy along with you. That's a really good place to start and to join into this new acceleration. So really encourage you to stay connected with us, to join us, to follow the links below this video, explore on your own to see what resonates with you and what doesn't, and step into this new acceleration with us.